Hi, I'm Warren. Welcome back to this Introduction to SQL course. If you do hear any funny noises in the background, that's just my French bulldog snoring while she sleeps next to me, so please ignore that. Okay, in this video, we want to go and we want to create the database we're going to use for this training, and we want to create the data. So to save some time, I've gone and created a script for this. You will find the same script in my Google Drive. You can go and you can get it and you can copy it into a new query window. So let's take a look and see where we can find a new query window. So this is SQL Server Management Studio. Here you can see the SQL Server instance that is running. This is my SQL Server. We then have a folder for databases. You won't have any database here. You'll have nothing below there. So we're going to go and create a new database. So how we do that, we open a new query window that opens a blank query window here on the right hand side, and you can paste the code that you're going to get from my Google Drive in this window. So that looks like this. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to talk you through what this code does. So here you can see there's a lot of code here that is in green. And the reason that is green is it's commented out, meaning that SQL, when we run this, it won't take into account any of this green text here. And how you do that, you can either, if I go and I want to say comment this out, so I don't want SQL to use it, I can go and I can see this little button here says comment out. So we click on that and you can see it's made it green. If I want to undo that, I just go to the little block next to it and it says there are uncomment lines, and it does that. Or you can just go in front of the line and you can put two of these little minus symbols and you can see that that has commented it out. Now to quickly talk you through this is an introduction. We will get into more detail on the technicalities of SQL, but we just want to get up and running and get you guys writing SQL queries. So don't worry too much about the setup of the database. We will go into detail in future courses and future videos. This is just to get you up and running. So I'm going to give you a very quick overview. Don't be too concerned if it doesn't make sense. We just need to get the database up and running, and then we'll start looking at the SQL queries, which will be a lot easier than this side of it. So what we're first saying is we're saying use the master database. So every SQL database has a master, and that's basically where all the scripts that run the actual software sit. That's where users are created. All of these commands here can run because of the master database. So we're just saying use master. We then want to create the database SalesDB. That's what we're going to call our database, SalesDB, and we're saying go. So that's just going to do that. So if we highlight this section and we go and we click on this execute, that will create our sales database. So we click on execute. Here it says at the bottom, command completed successfully, and there's the time that it completed. Now we don't see anything here yet. If you go and you right click on databases and you click refresh, there you can see our sales DB. So we've now created a database, and you can see there's nothing under tables other than the system tables. We haven't created any tables. So on this database, you can see where there are tables created, you can see them there. We don't have any tables yet. So now what we're going to say is, best practice, you always want to use the database you've created, because here we were using master. When we want to create all the rest of the stuff we're doing, we want to create it inside our sales DB. So we just go use sales DB, you can execute that, and you can see all it did here, it changed master to sales DB. We could have easily just gone and chosen it, but what I've done with the script is you can actually run the entire script in one go, and it will create all the databases, everything, all the tables, insert the data in one go. I'm just going to walk you through it step by step. So we're using our sales DB. That's very important. Always make sure you're on the database that you currently want to work on. Because we have to, we're going to create an admin user. We're going to give it a role of admin, and we're going to create a regular user with a password, and we're going to give it certain permissions. In the real world, you would have users on your database. You wouldn't want everyone to be able to delete data and mess with your database. You might want them only to be able to view the data. So that's what you can do with these roles. But for now, I'm just going to go and run all of this here just to create the users. You can do the same. So you just highlight this entire section, including this login admin. We'll go all the way down to here. And we'll run that. On completed successfully. So we now have some users. All right, so if we go down here, let's just refresh our database again. And if we go down to tables, we still have nothing in our tables. We're going to go and create a table. So what we want to do now, we want to create an employee table. Like I showed you before, we have a couple of tables with stored data in, and then we have master tables, that is employee, product, and customer. And then we have a transactional table that has all of our sales records in. So the first thing we want to do is we want to create an employee table. So if we go and we run just the script. So this script, to create a table, you write create table, you give it a name. So we want to call it employee. You then open a bracket and you put all the columns. So this employee ID will be a column, first name will be a column, last name will be a column, and job title. You give the column a format. See how we're saying it's varchar 50 characters long. The employee ID is an integer, so it's a number, and it's our primary key, which means there can't be duplicates. So you can't have two employee ones. It will always have to be a unique ID in this field. So let's go and create that table. We execute, it says successful. You can go and refresh here, and there's our employee table. So now to see what is inside an employee table, you right click and you can go to select top 1000 rows. You can see it's opened a new query window and it's written a SQL query. Don't worry too much about this. We're going to create these from scratch soon, but you can see in this table, there's no data. So we're in this window. We want to go back to our original window here. Here we want to go and insert 5 employee records because our company has got 5 employees. And here we're saying we want to insert into, that's the SQL statement, into the employee table. We want to insert into these columns. So employee ID, first name, last name, job title. It's the same as these columns we created. And then we want to insert the following values. So the values is the actual data. So we have 1 will be the employee ID. Then it'll be first name, last name, job title. And then there will be a comma. Each of these are in brackets. There's a comma between each one. And the last one has a semicolon to tell SQL that that statement is now finished. You can see the numbers don't need to have inverted commas, but anything that is text or anything that has a space, like here, there's a space there, needs to be inside these inverted commas. So that's how you insert data. So let's go and insert this data. We execute it. If we go back to our previous window here, we highlight this query and we execute it. You can now see we have 5 records in our employee table. So now we want to go and create our customer table. Again, it's exactly the same. Create table, call it customer. With these columns, every column has to have a data type. We will get into the data types in more detail in the future. But we're just saying that this is integer and this can be a varied character up to 50. And again, we have a primary key, so customer ID. You can't have 2 customer ones because then when we're looking at our data, we wouldn't know which customer is which. So that has to be unique if it's a primary key. So again, we're going to run create table. We're going to go and insert our 20 customers. Again, anything that is text is in the inverted commas. Anything that is a number can be just a normal number. We insert that. Let's go refresh our table here. Now we have a customer table. Let's right click, select top 1000, and there our customer table. So that inserted perfectly. We can close the window just by clicking this X. We're going to go down. We want to create our product table. I'm going to go a bit quicker now. It's exactly like we've just discussed. We're going to highlight the insert into. It's going to insert 10 different products with their pricing and their quantity. So here you can see anything numeric can be a standard number. Anything that is text has to be in these inverted commas. We're going to execute that. And then we're going to create what we call our fact table or our transaction table. So this is where the actual sales records goes in. The previous tables have all been master data. What products do we have? What employees do we have? And what customers do we have? This table is actually going to be the number of transactions. So we're going to have a transaction ID that is unique because it's a primary key. An employee ID, so which employee sold that item, which customer bought it, what was the transaction date, and you can see that's date time format. What was the product ID? It was integer. What was the quantity? We sold 2 or we sold 10 or whatever the case, and what was the price? And you can see price is a decimal, and this 10 and 2 is one of the formats that we can put it in. So we can say it can be 10 characters long with 2 decimal points. And then at the bottom here, we have something interesting. We have our foreign key being declared. So we're saying foreign key, employee ID, references the employee table, employee ID. So what we're saying is this employee ID here, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is going to be referenced in our transaction table in the employee ID column. And that is how we're going to join these two tables. And the reason why we do that is we'd rather store a number in our transaction table because we have, say, 10 employees, but we might have 10 million transactions. You wouldn't want to have John Doe repeated 10 million times in your transaction table where you could just have the number 1 repeated. So to save space, we put a 1, and when we need the employee's name, we can always link from our transaction to this table and we can pull the name through. So that's the thinking behind that. It's just to save some space. So let's go and create our transaction table. And the same logic works for product and customer. We're saying that this table relates, because it's a relational database, to the same column in the master data table. So we're going to create that table. And now we've just got 30 records. I'm going to run all 30 records here. So we're going to say insert into all the columns we've created these records here, and you can see the primary key is unique. There's no repeating of any number. It has to be a unique transaction. And we execute that. So we can close the script now. Don't need to save it. And let's go and refresh our tables. And if we go and look at our sales transaction table, here you can see we have an ID for the transaction, we have an ID for the employee, an ID for the customer, and an ID for the product. Because if we had millions of records here and we put product 1, product 2, customer first name, last name, etc., employee first name, last name, this table would be massive. So to keep it really quick and to keep the file size down, we put in IDs, and when we write a query, we can go and fetch customer 1 from the customer table and bring the name. Or we can fetch product 1 or employee 1. So we can go and say, I want to see this record, go and get employee 1. We can go and pull employee 1, John Doe, into our query. But we'll get to that. So that is how we create the database that we want to use in this training and the tables we're going to use. What we've done is we've created 3 master data tables, a list of our customers, our employees, and the products we sell. And we've created a transaction table or a fact table where all of our transactions are recorded. So everything we've sold, we record. What unique transaction is it? Who sold it? What customer bought it? What was the transaction date and time? What product was sold? What was the quantity and what was the price? So that's basically a quick overview of how to create this database and its tables. Again, we more want to get the database up and running that we can start querying it. In future videos, we'll get into the technicalities on how to actually create different tables, what the data types are, etc. So if you run through that script, you'll be able to create your database. And in the next video, we'll start looking at how we can query that database. Thank you very much.